Hello, and welcome to another episode of Album Musings. So in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about Pablo Honey by Radiohead, released on the 22nd of February 1993. So this video is being recorded around that time and will be actually released on the same day in 2023. So yeah, another album that's hit the 30-year mark when this episode goes out. So I have really fond memories of this album, and I'll talk a little bit more about them towards the end of this episode. But yeah, this lined up with a lot of very memorable things that were going on in my life, and also, just where I was buying my music from at that time. Because of course we're definitely talking here, well, for me anyway, pre-internet. So let's have a look at some of the stats. We'll go through the singles like we always do, and then I'm going to finish off with a little story around the purchasing of this album and where I was buying my music from back then. So their first album, and you can see another classic instance where we have bands as they get longer into their career, the time spans between releases are getting extended. So early here, every couple of years, and then we're getting up to 3 years. There's a 2-year gap there. I remember Amnesiac and How to Thief coming out, relatively speaking, close together. But yeah, it's a thing that we've flagged up before. So here's the track listing. Now, I do know that there's a 2009 version of this, which includes, or has had added to it, a non-album single that was released around the time of their early singles, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But the singles I remember are Creep and Anyone Can Play Guitar. Stop Whispering was also a single, but it didn't do very well in the UK. Also, there was a bit of a delay in Creep hitting the UK charts, and you'll see things get a little bit out of whack between when the singles were released and when they actually charted in the UK. So, something to keep your eye open for when we go through. I think my favourite track on the album is Anyone Can Play Guitar. And I think at this point I was aware of the fact that there were effectively three guitars in the band, because you had Johnny Greenwood, Ed O'Brien and Tom York also play guitar, and on quite a number of these tracks you can hear the three guitars, and that was a really interesting sound to my ears for a band that were very much in the album in that sort of grunge alternative rock. I suppose I'd always associated like more than two guitarists in bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd and maybe other southern rock bands. So to hear it in an alternative rock band, it was pretty interesting at the time. We just went through the personnel, the previous tab, looking down here to see who handled the production. There we go, a bit of a mixed bag there. I'm just looking to see about the reissues. Oh, here, yeah, I missed it there. So it doesn't seem to list them individually here, but I'm sure there's various versions of this. And as I've said, I do know that there was a later one which had added in an additional single. Chart-wise, the album didn't do too bad. Obviously it didn't go on to do as good as later albums by the band. Got into the Billboard 200. And that's the certifications. So, 2 times platinum in the UK. On Album of the Year, where do they place it? So, I'm not expecting it to see up very high, because you've got albums like OK Computer, In Rainbows, Kid A, all of these. So yeah, they're all placing above that in terms of the ranking that the Album of the Year use. But like I said, I have fond memories of this band and this album. And although I subsequently went on to buy some of the later stuff, and I did particularly enjoy Amnesiac, it was interesting because around the time of these albums, Kid A, Amnesiac, OK Computer, they were being featured actually in Terrorize. I'm pretty sure that's why I ended up buying Amnesiac, because it actually made Terrorizer's end of year list, if I've got that right. And I'm always interested with, which Terrorizer magazine, which is no longer published, but it was always associated with extreme music. So I was always interested. There would always be, I found at least one album in there that was extreme in different ways than just being heavy or fast or, what's the word I'm looking for? Or like a extreme industrial album. And over the years, when I've gone through the Terrorizer end of years list, I've always had my eye out for, bands that I didn't recognise as necessarily being usually within the extreme music fold. Like one year there was a Sigur Rós album in there, and then another year there was a Radiohead album. So chart-wise, in total, singles, albums, 6 UK number ones, 11 UK top 10s, 15 UK top 40s, and it looks like there's overlap here. So that means one or two things. Either for a lot of time they're in the charts, there wasn't really a UK top 75 recorded, or every single one of their albums has made top 40 at some point. 9 weeks at number 1, 47 weeks in the top 10, and so on. So, okay, so that would imply that, looking at these stats, so their highest entries of albums have always been, the UK top 40, and they have slowly gone out over time into there. So, and then looking at the singles, so no number ones at all. Interesting. So let's just have a quick look down. So 22, 114 weeks on the charts for the album. So what have been their best albums on the charts? So OK Computer, Kid A, Amnesiac, How to the Thief, In Rainbows. You can see there's a lot of best ofs and various other things mixed in amongst here. The Bends went in 2017. Interesting. It's always, I think I pointed this out before, like you see albums bouncing out in and out of the charts. Let's just look see what happened for Pablo Honey. So, entered the charts on the 6th of 3rd, 1993. When did I say it was released? 22nd of February, 1993. So I got in fairly fast. Looking at how it did, let's just look and expand this out. So you can see, that's pretty interesting, like the amount of times it's been in and out of the UK charts over the years. You can see there was a run in 1998 where it got up to number 22. So its original run, it got up to number 25 in actual fact. Just make sure I've got the right one there. Okay, so the week it was in the charts, we got Diva, Automatic for the People, Rod Stewart, well, Michael Jackson, St. Etienne, So Tough. It's Katie Lang album. Great Expectations. There's Rage Against the Machine going up the charts, and there it is. New entry at number 25. Now, in terms of the singles off of the albums, off of this album, so you can see here, there's 3 singles around that time period. This one and this one were off of the album. This one was a standalone. Then, like I said, I understand it was added in. And there's a 3rd single which didn't make the UK charts at all. Now, you can see here what's curious with the singles is, that album shot into the charts straight, pretty much, within a couple of weeks of being released. The single itself, Creep, was actually released before Anyone Can Go Play Guitar, but it didn't do too well, and we'll see in a moment like the lag there when we look through. So if we look here, 21st of September 1992, so the previous year from when the album came out. But as you see, it went straight in the charts at number 7, but not until the 18th of the 9th, 1993. So I'm not quite sure whether it was just languishing around and then just got bought out off the back of the album, or whether they did actually do like an official re-release for that. And you can see again with this, it's been in and out of the charts over a number of different years. If we look what it was sort of jockeying up against on the 12th of September 93, so quite well after the album's release. So we got Mr. Vain and Culture Beat, Go West by Pet Shop Boys. There it is, Faces to Unlimited, Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana. Yeah, I definitely remember all these in the charts. It Must Have Been Love by Roxette, Moved by Moby, Price of Love. There was that interesting Ace of Spades in 93. There was like a dance remix of that. I think that's the one. Around that time, because I have that on CD. And then Anyone Can Play Guitar, which was the second single released off the album. Love the cover to that. That just got in at number 32, but it actually got into the charts before Creep did, even though it was released afterwards. So this is getting very close, if not, just before the album release. And so that one's To Unlimited still kicking around. So 7th of February, we've got Exterminate by Snap. And People. It's a 1993 release of Ultravox's Vienna. Saint Etienne. It's a band I really liked at the time. Arrested Development. Oh, of course, Bed of Roses by Bon Jovi. Some Def Leppard, and there we are. The Great Pretender. Yeah, it's interesting. There's quite a few like re-releases here of stuff. I wonder what was causing that. Not sure. Now, this was a non-album single that was released on the 10th of May. Actually got to number 42 in the UK singles charts. We'll have a look at that. So just outside the top 40. And it was included in the 2009 Pablo Honey issue. It was not, what was I going to say? Yeah, it was not on the original. And this was a US only single. And this was on the album. Got to number 23 in the US modern rock charts, but didn't feature at all in the UK charts. Not on import or anything like that. And so just going back to this non-album release, because it's just interesting to see where that got to. Like I said, number 42. So what was it? Jockeying up against Ace of Base, To Unlimited. So this was 16th of May. Bon Jovi. Oh, Utah Saints. And there it is. Also, Walking in My Shoes was out then as well by Depeche Mode. I have real strong musical memories of this period. I was buying a lot of stuff then, actually. Still buying cassettes primarily. And that leads nicely into just a little bit of a reminisce about buying music back then. So at that point in time, so around the early 90s, I was regularly going down to Brighton on a Sunday. I mean, Brighton was a popular destination for me anyway, because I lived in the south of England at the time, and it wasn't too far away to drive down to the south coast where I lived. But what I used to do particularly, where there were two record stores sort of across the road from one another. So there's a road that goes from Brighton to Hove. It's called Western Road. And I used to walk down here. And if I can just bring this on the map. So I'm trying to remember at that point in time whether Churchill Square had been redeveloped. I'm not sure, actually. But when I was... So just if you're not familiar with Brighton, there's the seafront, there's the one remaining pier. There's the I don't even know if there's still like wooden piles in there or not in the ground. And this is a popular area for me. I've probably mentioned it on numerous videos. Back when I used to go to college in the early to mid 80s, actually, I would often walk down. I go to college like one day a week, and I'd walk down to the seafront and get tickets for the Brighton Centre. And the ticket office, there was a ticket office at the Virgin Megastore. And from the 80s into the 90s, I would regularly go down to Brighton. But then what happened was, somewhere in the late 90s, Sunday opening became a thing. So I used to drive down on Sunday morning and go record shopping. And my favourite thing to do was to walk down to this part of Brighton, and there were two big record stores. I'm going to zoom in a moment because it's rather sad. Most high streets in the UK can be rather sad certain times of the in certain years. I think these photos were taken from Street View in 2020, so we'll zoom in a moment. But what it was that on one side of the road, I think where the Argus now is, it was in this block here, was the Virgin Megastore. And on the other side of the road, next to the KFC, which is, well, I don't know if there was a KFC at the time, I think there was actually, was HMV. Now HMV, these two stores did actually move before the demise of HMV and Virgin, and they actually ended up moving at some point later on to Churchill Square. And at some point, I think HMV shut down again in Churchill Square and then ended back in, going back in again. But it's funny because in Churchill Square they were also on opposite sides. HMV was on one side and Virgin was on the other side. I think either on the first or second floor. I can't remember exactly because it's been a while since I've visited Brighton. But yeah, before then they were in opposition here. So I used to walk down Western Road and flip backwards and forwards between the two. And I'm going to post, there's a really interesting history about the Virgin store because it moved around quite a bit in Brighton. And like I said, when I was at the peak of doing my record purchasing down in Brighton, it would have been, this period from 85 to 98, basically. And there was an HMV across the road from that. And both of these stores were impressive because they were on multiple levels. And for this particular album, I actually bought it from the HMV on the opposite side of the road, because I can just remember the display at the time. They used to have all this massive wall of just recently released albums, in, I suppose at that point it would be the vinyl, the cassette and the CD possibly coexisting. I think maybe not the volume. I know there was a separate area for vinyl, but certainly there was a period where all three formats like coexisted. And I can remember going in there, and it had only just been re-released, the album by Radiohead, and it was actually reduced at that point already. And they often did that with chart albums just to increase sales. But yeah, it was. I remember going in there and buying it, and then I'd driven down in my car, so I just played it on the way back. There's actually. It's funny, there's 3 cassettes that really stick in my head of buying at that store. One is Pablo Honey, the other is Blue Lines, and the other album would be Orbs. Is it Adventures Beyond the Ultra Dome? I think that's it, the double album with fluffy little clouds on it. So it's funny how things stick in your head. in terms of the Virgin Megastore. I had several instances where I would walk in and they'd be playing something and I'd ask what it is, and then I remember walking in one day and they were playing, was it Just One Fix or New World Order, one of the two tracks, going up to the person on the desk and asking what they were playing at the time, and they pointed me in the right direction of the album, and I sort of bought it straight away. So happy memories of flicking between the two. So just let's have a look and see how grim it is. I think this is from 2020. So which side of the road are we on? Oh, here we go. So here, there's the KFC. This would be the old HMV building. I don't know if they rebuilt this and redid the front, but yeah, it was on multiple floors. It was really cool. And then over here, I think it is, and I think it's in the block with Argus, was in here, because I remember it being next to a side road with this barrier. So I'm pretty sure this was where the old, or one of the Virgins was, because they moved around, or the Virgin, because like I said, it moved up and down Brighton. But let's just take a trip down memory lane. I'm just going to go down Western Road. So if anybody suffers from motion sickness. So this is Churchill Square. Before redevelopment, this was a pretty grim, almost like a concrete jungle. It was really weird, and quite sinister looking. I suppose you could say it's even sinister looking now, but yeah, even more sinister. And back before it was this sort of modern indoor shopping precinct, there was shops round here, but it was mainly outside. And there used to be an R price in this area, as well as there was always two HMVs for a period of time, one down this end and one up the other end we'd just come from. And towards the end of me living in the UK, on several occasions, me and friends used to come down here. And oh God, sorry about this. It's rather jumpy. Are we out the front now? Yeah, it's difficult to do, but there's an area. Ah, damn it! I'm not going to be able to. Oh, there we go. There was used to be. This looks like a clothes shop now. There used to be a really cool bookshop in here, and coffee shop up here, and with friends, we used to sort of sit up here and just stare out at passers-by. And so we could spend like an hour in here just hanging out, and then obviously go back into the area of the books. I had CDs in here as well, but it was a really impressive bookshop in there as part of the redevelopment. Yeah, so looking forward to getting down to Brighton again at some point. Don't know when that's going to be. And just see how up to date it says. Oh, this is way back in 2016. Wow. So I'm just trying to think if I think I've been down there since then, actually. So yeah. Anyway, thanks once again for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that little muse and side chat about Radiohead's Pablo Honey. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next episode.